I love Super Punch-Out. More specifically, I love speedrunning Super Punch-Out. From when I first got the Gabby Jay world record 5.5 years ago to now, I have been obsessed with this game. I've tied the world record on all 16 fights, gotten a top 10 single segment time, written and recorded multiple guides for the game, and made dozens of spreadsheets and flowcharts. Unfortunately, having done all of this, I've encountered a unique problem. I've run out of new things to do. That's where we get to the premise of this video. Almost all of what I just mentioned was done on the NTSC version of the game. I've developed a handful of strategies for the PAL version of the game, and I dabbled a bit in playing it a few years ago, but I've never dedicated any significant amount of time to it in the same way I have with NTSC. So flashback to September 6th, where I found myself with a week of free time and nothing to do with it. I figured there was no better time than then to dedicate myself to a goal. That goal? Get all 16 individual fight world records in the PAL version of Super Punch-Out. In under a week. Before we begin, how about a little preamble? Firstly, what's the difference between NTSC and PAL? The major difference between versions is that NTSC runs at 60 frames per second and PAL runs at 50. This means that the PAL version of the game is a little bit slower than the NTSC version, and frame-perfect inputs are going to be slightly easier, because now those timings are 1/50th of a second instead of 1/60th of a second. This frame rate difference also affects other aspects of the game. Some animations are different lengths than their NTSC counterparts, and this is a major factor which makes some strategies possible on the PAL version that are not possible, or slower than the current best strategy, on the NTSC version. All of that to say that this won't be as simple as doing what I've done on the NTSC version, but again, while there are many strategies that remain mostly the same, there are also many strategies that are completely different. I mentioned earlier that I dabbled a bit in PAL a few years ago. By this, I meant that I had tied many of the quote-unquote easier world records in the game. Now that time has passed, a couple of these times are no longer the world record. I never uploaded any of these times because my original plan was to compile them all into one video once I'd gotten every single one. But I never ended up doing that, and many of the recordings from those sessions are long gone now. One final thing. Over the course of my work on this challenge, my ideas for this video changed quite a lot. It was originally going to be like what I planned to do a few years ago, just a video of all the times back to back with nothing in between. Eventually that turned into including my journey to each time, what happened before I got the time I was after. Finally, I had the idea to not just do that, but to make it a guide of sorts, to encourage other people to do the same thing I did, and to make it easier for them too. With all of that out of the way, here it is. How I got all 16 world records in PAL Super Punch-Out, and how you can do it too. So I'm starting this challenge off with Gabby Jay, and it's not just because he's the easiest, but also because I decided to do this challenge in fighter order. This is not the way I would recommend learning this game yourself, as the difficulty spikes dramatically a few fights in. I only did it this way because I have prior experience with the game, I was planning to get them all anyways, and because I thought it would be a fun added challenge. If you're curious, what's shown on the screen is the order I would recommend a beginner learns, as it eases you into the mechanics and RNG elements nicely, with minimum spikes in difficulty. Obviously, the difficulty of each fight will depend on the person, so take this list with a grain of salt. I'll include timestamps in the description so that you can easily jump around to whatever fight you need to. A very important thing to know about this game is that you can buffer inputs as others are still happening. This means that while the animation of, let's say, a left jab is happening, you can start holding another input, and that input will come out next as soon as possible. Naturally, you will want to do this every single time you do an input in the game that you don't have to manually time. The Gabby Jay fight begins with something that you will become extremely familiar with as you continue to learn this game. Guard manipulation. Guard manip for short. Guard manip is manipulating the opponent's guard by holding up or not holding up until the start of a fight. If you hold up until the fight starts, the opponent will have their guard up, and you can hit them with low punches. If you wait to press up until the fight starts, the opponent's guard will be down, and you can hit them with high punches. Optimally, you want to do these inputs as quickly as possible once the fight starts. Thankfully, Gabby Jay, unlike other fights, is very forgiving with guard manip, and doesn't require perfect guard manip to get the world record. If you're one frame off, you want to do a quick dodge after your 5th punch, and if you're frame perfect, you want to do a quick duck. Starting out, you probably won't be getting frame perfect guard manip every time, so stick with doing the quick dodge unless you've really locked in the frame perfect timing. As you counter Gabby's punch with a right jab, you want to pause the game to let the super meter fill up. This will let you use a super punch earlier than you would otherwise be able to. This is a trick that comes up in a few other fights as well, and it's very useful. After the low super, Gabby goes into what we call a dizzy animation, where he is vulnerable to be instantly knocked down. The series of inputs you see here is done so that you can knock him down in this dizzy animation as early as possible every single time. This is called a dizzy buffer. There are usually several dizzy buffers you can choose from that will all get you the same time. All of the dizzy buffers you see in this video are the ones I chose to do myself, but feel free to look elsewhere and pick ones you like. I knew Gabby Jay was going to be very simple, so I decided to spice it up a little bit with a silly dizzy buffer, which you've already seen in the video. The standard dizzy buffer is left body blow, right body blow, high super, and that's the one I would recommend to new players because it's extremely simple. One final thing, you may notice in the video that it says I already have a 623 Gabby Jay, the world record, and that's because on my quote-unquote casual playthrough of PAL that I did in order to get a complete file, I accidentally got it. Whoops.
Fight! Gabby Jay!
Yay!
Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, good! Knockout!
Pizza cake!
You start off the bear hugger fight by buffering a jab to provoke his overhead attack. You can choose to time the duck that follows manually, or you can use the double quick duck buffer shown here. This buffer takes a bit to get the hang of, but it's a skill you will absolutely want to master, and this fight is the perfect opportunity to do it since it's right at the start. Next, you'll be intercepting a taunt that Bear does every few seconds in the fight. We refer to these as strides since the visual cue we use is based on the in and out motion of Bear's legs. As his legs go out, or right when his legs go out, you throw a left body. We do this twice in this strategy, and they are the only two inputs that you actually have to manually time. After the first high super, you buffer a quick dodge into another high super. Bear has a chance of dodging this punch. If it does land, and you are frame perfect on both strides, Bear will go into his dizzy animation. In Phase 2, Bear has a 3 in 4 chance of dodging this last high super. I obviously decided to use the double quick duck buffer at the start of the fight since I'm used to the inputs already, and especially because I personally find it even easier when playing on a keyboard. I didn't do it in every fight with chained quick dodge / duck buffers, but you can actually hold up for the whole duration of the buffer and it will automatically cancel the ducks. This is technically not possible on a Super Nintendo controller, so some people may call this cheating. I call it innovation. You can also do the same thing by holding A, assuming you don't have a full super meter. You can still use A to cancel dodges and ducks even if you have a full super meter, but you have to time them as if they were up presses instead of holding the button down. It ended up taking 4 perfect phase 1s and only 5 minutes of attempts to get this run.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Fight! One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Knockout! Piece of cake.
Unlike Gabby Jay, Piston Hurricane requires you to perform perfect Garminip to tie the task time. Don't be scared though, as this fight is considered trivial by most experienced players. Outside of Garminip, you only have to perform one other non-buffered input. This left body is delayed by exactly one frame to intercept an attack. From here, everything is buffered, and in Phase 2 you simply hold the A button. And boom, that's the fight. To reiterate just how trivial this fight is at a certain level, here is my entire attempt session for Piston Hurricane.
Piston Hurricane! Fight! One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Fight! One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Knockout! Piece of cake.
Bald Bull is by far the hardest task tie to obtain in the minor circuit, and it's not even close. This fight begins with our first example of upwards Garminip. People generally have more trouble with upwards Garminip, as instead of pressing two buttons at the same time, you're letting go of a button immediately before pressing another. The proper rhythm comes with practice. After the first counterpunch and a left jab, we delay a right body, which hits on the last possible frame of Bull's stun. This punch fills our super meter more than a normal punch, and it gets Bull closer to dizzying. This is a mandatory frame-perfect input, meaning that if you do not land this 1/50th of a second punch, you can't complete the task strategy. A common pseudo-buffer for this punch is buffering a tap dodge after the left jab, slightly delaying, then throwing the right body. This makes it so there's less waiting between inputs, and I personally find this to be invaluable when it comes to getting this timing down. Following the mandatory frame-perfect right body, you'll counter Bull with a left jab and pause, just like we did for Gabby, to let the super meter fill up. You then unpause and throw a low super. If you were fast enough, Bull should be dizzy. Quick note, when you perform the mandatory frame perfect, Bull's next punch will come out sooner than if you didn't. Be sure to account for this when learning to time that counter. Next comes the only truly relevant bit of RNG in this fight. In Phase 2, if you perform Garminip within the first 3 possible frames and buffer a high super, Bull has a 3 in 8 chance of dodging. Obviously, this is relevant when going for the world record, as you are trying to go as fast as possible. Phase 3 is interesting. Bull has 2 possible delays he can do before his Bull charge. Which delay he does doesn't affect the final time, so optimally we want to account for both delays with our buffer strategy. All of the known buffers which do this are quite awkward, but have certainly gotten easier as more are discovered or input orders are changed. Now is as good a time as any to talk about buffering rapid punches properly. Rapids will only come out if you let go of the A button after the action was initiated and are actively pressing/holding down the A button again 7 or more frames after the initial A press. If your repress is too late, your rapids won't begin as quickly as possible. This is a problem for normalized buffers. To properly and consistently buffer rapids, you should get a feel for when the super input is registered, then quickly let go of and repress the A button, making sure to hold it down. Don't spam the A button, as it comes with the risk of missing the frame that you need to be pressing A for. I'll admit that I don't practice what I'm preaching here when I play on keyboard. It's a bad habit, but I highly suggest you do what I say and not as I do. If you have low input lag and/or good reaction time, you can also react to when the animation of the super begins as a cue for when to let go of and repress A, instead of just going off of feeling. All of that information was necessary so that we can talk about the optimal dizzy buffers for the bull charge. The first buffer that was found was left jab, quick dodge, low rapids, quick dodge, left body. Buffering low rapids out of a quick dodge is really awkward, so the order was eventually changed to quick dodge, left jab, low rapids, quick dodge, left body. This is the one I would personally recommend you use, as buffering rapids out of a left jab isn't nearly as bad as buffering them out of a quick dodge. If Bull does the short delay, the low rapids will knock him down. If he does the long delay, the left body will do the same. Unfortunately, I did not see the order change anywhere, and I didn't think of it myself. I tried doing the old, harder one for a few minutes and decided it would be more consistent to just eat the 50-50 in Phase 3, and do the buffer which only hits the short delay frame perfectly. I was punished for having this outlook. About 10 minutes into my attempts, I got my first task pace into Phase 2, and subsequently my first task pace into Phase 3. Of course, no luck, long delay. A few minutes later, another perfect Phase 1, and another task pace into Phase 3. Long delay. 20 minutes in now, another into Phase 3. Long delay. I had a bit of a drought, where I got a couple of dodges in Phase 2 and failed guard manip twice. 37 minutes in. Task pace into Phase 3. Long delay. It was beginning to weigh on me, but 10 minutes later I finally got the run I'd been waiting for, after 9 perfect Phase 1s and 5 task paces into Phase 3.
Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight!
Yes. Oh my god. I took 5.
Knockout!
Jesus Christ. The game really made me pay for not being able to do the other buffer. Holy shit. What a great leaderboard. After finishing up the minor circuit in just under an hour, I decided I'd hang it up for the night with the intention of doing all of the major circuit the next day. Bob Charlie is an extremely simple fight execution-wise. Just perform downwards guard manip and throw punches hoping they all land. Bob has a 1 in 4 chance of dodging each of the first 3 punches you throw, as well as the 6th and 7th punches you throw. This comes out to just under a 1 in 4 chance of getting out of Phase 1. After that, you buffer a high super in Phase 2, and hope it goes through. This is a 3 in 8 chance. Bob took me just 2 perfect Phase 1s, and about 4 minutes to get.
Charlie! Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, turn! Knockout! Pizza cake!
Dragon Chan is another fight where we use upwards guard manip. Nothing fancy is really going on here, just buffering punches, a quick counter, and 2 delayed body blows at the end. The main thing which makes this fight a bit difficult is that you need to be frame perfect on all of these relatively awkward inputs to even get to phase 2. Chan won't get dizzy if you're late by a single frame. Something to keep in mind with the delayed right body and left body is that the delay is probably a lot shorter than you think it is, especially for the left body. If he's not getting dizzy, simply go faster. In phase 2, Chan can do a few things. Half the time he will do kicks. You don't want this. The other half of the time he will heal. This is what you want, but it's slightly more complicated than that. Chan can do a long or a short heal, and you want him to do the short heal as it makes him vulnerable sooner, and the buffer we're using is made to hit him as soon as possible when he does the short heal. This is another 50-50, so the overall odds are a nice 1 in 4. I knew this strategy was going to be a bit of a learning curve for me. As I mentioned earlier, I got the Chan TAS a few years ago, but that was before this strategy was found, and this new one is totally different. About 13 minutes into my attempts, I got my first perfect run. Into the dizzy. But I fumbled and accidentally threw a high super instead of a low super, losing me a frame. I played it out anyways, and he gave me kicks, so I'm just going to pretend like it was doomed to fail. 25 minutes later, I finally got another perfect phase 1, and thankfully, that was the one.
Dragon Chan! Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fight!
Yay!
1, 2,
That's not too bad.
4, 5,
It's a
6, 7.
really interesting strategy.
Turn!
The timing on that counter is super awkward, but the right intercept after the stun is like intuitive. It's just like the standard TAS strategy on NTSC, and then the punch after that is so easy. The timing on that's super simple. Cool strat. Masked Muscle is able to block either of the first 2 left bodies you throw, as well as the final one before he gets dizzy. For the first, he has a 1 in 4 chance to block, and for the other 2, he has a 7 in 16 chance. Just under a 1 in 4 chance of the full strategy working. The only notable thing about this fight is the double quick duck buffer you use after the right body counter. This buffer is used to hit Muscle on the last frame of his stun, just like we did with Bull, but instead of manually timing it, we have the buffer to help out. Like I said in the Bear Hugger section, double quick ducks are very nice to know, and this is a prime example of that. This fight is just the NTSC version, but easier, since you don't have to do anything special for the super in phase 2 to land. Naturally, this fight was relatively trivial for me.
Muscle! Fight! 1, 2, 3,
That took
4,
a minute and a half.
Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Pizza cake.
Now I gotta do the annoying one. This is gonna take a while. Just like the minor circuit, the final fight in the major circuit is easily the hardest to tie the TAS on. On the surface, this fight is very simple, but you will quickly realize that despite the lack of any RNG elements, the multiple strange inputs, and one particularly problematic input will make this fight an absolute wall for most players. The first notable punch is the delayed left body blow. You only have to delay a handful of frames for this punch, so don't wait too long. We intentionally waste frames on this dizzy buffer so that we can buffer the high super in Phase 2. Wasting these frames advances Sandman's move timer enough to make this possible. At the beginning of Phase 3, we delay a high super to intercept his punch. The timing for this is pretty strange, but I and many others have found that using a quick dodge as a pseudo buffer is extremely helpful. My cue is that right when I see that Mac is about to return to the middle, I press A. This, like all visual cues, will depend on your reaction time and/or input delay. Next, we dodge the Dreamland Express. Very simple. And finally, the worst input of them all. This final high super. Anyone who has gone for this TAS tie in the PAL or NTSC version will tell you that this is the single worst input in the entire fight. And I personally believe it is one of the hardest single inputs in the entire game. No one really has a good cue for this. Something, watch his feet, I don't know. This one will take some time. Be prepared. I was really dreading this fight, as I knew it would be my first major roadblock after the Bald Bull disaster. At least with Bull, I'm confident in my execution, but with Sandman, I have never been able to get that last high super down. Now I had to do it on a different version of the game, and on an emulator. This was going to suck major ass. My first several Phase 1s were used to get used to the timings of the two punches I'm usually proficient at on NTSC. There was a slight learning curve to this since the rhythm of the quick dodge pseudo into high super was slightly different, but it eventually came together. I was also having some trouble with the final dodge into the right jab for some reason. Obviously, the final high super was giving me trouble as well. I was losing the most time on this input every time if I wasn't doing it too early. 13 minutes into my session, I got this run into Phase 3.
Mr. Sandman! Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5. Fight!
Fuck.
Knockout! Pizza cake!
Damn it. 13:11. Heartbreaking. To think it would have been over if I'd gone only a frame faster. I kept going for about 15 minutes after this, but my heart wasn't in it anymore, and I decided to call it a day. I woke up the next day and thought to myself, wow, I hate doing the Sandman IL. I'm not going to play the game today. So I didn't, and I played Super Monkey Ball instead. The time finally came for me to continue my Sandman attempts, and this time I decided to pull out a secret weapon: save states. Since I'm running the game on an emulator, I have easy access to these, And this was a good way to practice not just this one input that's giving me trouble, but any that might do so in the future as well. So I practiced and practiced and practiced Phase 3, especially the final super, and I eventually found something resembling a visual cue for it. Once Sandman finishes reeling from the previous high super, he returns to his idle animation. His feet straighten out at this moment, so I would look for that to happen, wait just a moment, then throw the super. It wasn't the most consistent or specific cue, but it was better than nothing. During this session, I managed to get 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my god, dude, how? I'm so mad. Fuck off, Sandman. That was totally perfect. I just disagree. That was a freaking off, man. Fuck. 5. Oh my god. God damn it. Sandman. Holy shit. More 1311s. I was having flashbacks to my experience with the fight on NTSC, where I filled the whole leaderboard with 1315s before finally getting a 1313. But finally, after 55 perfect Phase 1s between my first and second sessions, and all of those 1311s, I finally got what I'd been waiting for.
Mr. Sandman! Fight! One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fight! One, two, 3, 4, 5. Fight!
Yes! Let's fucking go! Oh my god.
Knockout!
I feel like
Piece of cake.
a bum for having to do save state practice for Phase 3 and the final punch there, but that was insufferable. God damn. You get to see my incredible 126 that I got on my, I guess, casual playthrough of PAL. I was really having a lot of fun playing the game. God, I'm happy that's over. Aran Ryan is a very simple fight. Upwards guard manip, a few buffered punches, then one non-buffered punch that intercepts him as he jumps to the left, a couple more buffered punches, and bang, he's dizzy. In Phase 2, you buffer a low super, then perform a buffer which will hopefully hit him out of the windup for his grab. He can do a long or short delay, and, as per usual, you want the short delay. This is a 50-50. The following is my entire Aran Ryan attempt session.
Aran Ryan! Fight!
I didn't even look at what a perfect Phase 1 is.
1, 2, 3, 4,
513, okay, not this.
fight!
Oh, I just need to do that 2 frames faster.
Fight! Aran Ryan! Fight!
Yay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fight!
Okay. Whatever.
1, 2, 3.
Dude, it's so
4,
crazy spending like an hour and a half on
7,
Sandman
8, 9,
and then doing Aran and it takes 3 tries. Oh my god. 3 tries in 1 perfect phase 1. Awesome. Heike Kagero is another relatively simple fight. When you counter him with a left jab, pause to let the super meter fill, unpause, throw the super, and he gets dizzy. At the beginning of phase 2, you have to buffer low rapids. I talked about this in detail in the Bald Bull section, but the basic rundown is that you shouldn't spam A. Instead, know when the super input is about to come out. When it does, let go of A, then quickly repress it and hold it down. After many rapids, Heike can do one of 2 things: block or dodge. You want him to dodge. Unfortunately, this has only a 1 in 8 chance of happening. On top of that, you then need to manually time a low super. If you're too early, Heike will block this punch every time. Also, this is a 3 in 8 chance. Overall, getting the Heike task wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been. I got very lucky with how many dodges I was getting, 3 in my first 10 phase 1s. Unfortunately, my execution wasn't quite there yet for the first 2. I went too early on my first one, and a whole 2 frames late on my second. On the third, well, you know what happened. Ah! Do you know that even if you time the last low super correctly, Heike can still dodge? Did you know that? I did. After just under 20 minutes, I managed to get to 12 perfect phase 1s. And here's what happened with those. Dude, I think a frame perfect pause is on like, what's the number?
Heike Kagero.
Fucking 402 or something. Yeah, like that. That's crazy.
1, 2,
Feels so early.
3, 4, 5, 6. Fight! Heike Kagero. Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fight!
Yay!
1, 2,
That only took 20 minutes.
4, 5,
It should not have taken that long, probably. But
8, 9,
whatever.
10.
I actually got relatively lucky with how many dodges I was getting. I just wasn't executing on the first several of them. Yay. So, I made an unfortunate error with Clown in this challenge. Somehow, I managed to completely forget that there was a new Clown strategy discovered earlier this year, and instead of doing that strategy, I got the old TAS of 897. Some cool stuff happened in this session though, so here it is at 100 times speed. Wow, look at me go. Oh wow, was that back-to-back perfect phase 1s? Damn, I suck at phase 2. Look at all that save state practice. Well anyways, because of that, I kinda lost the challenge. That didn't deter me from getting that new task anyways though, so stay tuned to see how that went. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, here's how that strategy is done. Mad Clown is currently the only fight in the game where we begin the strategy with a guard manip right jab. Isn't that fun? This right jab, the following left jab, and the third right jab can all be blocked by Clown. Clown can also taunt during these actions, as well as an extra time after the third right jab, before the counter. Clown has a 1 in 4 chance of retaliating at all of the opportunities mentioned, and he has a 1 in 4 chance of blocking the first right jab, a 7 in 16 chance of blocking the left jab, and a 7 in 16 chance of blocking the third right jab. Kind of. This is where I have to get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty of how the RNG in this game works, so please try to follow. When you buffer certain punches in the game, generally non-super punches, the RNG that determines how the opponent will react to the punch is called twice. This applies to things that are not connected to an opponent's pattern. So for example, Clown's taunt is not a reaction to an action, but his block is. The RNG that determines whether or not Clown will taunt would not be called twice, but the RNG that determines whether or not Clown will block would. This is how it works on the NTSC version of the game, and in my experience, I'm quite sure that it works the same in PAL. There are certain quirks with this system that I believe might be different, but we'll get to that when it's relevant in a later fight. All of that to say, the reason I said kind of to the third right jab having a 7 in 16 chance of being blocked is that you can delay this punch without losing time. This is because there is a long delay between punches in Clown's pattern, so you have more time than you need to get that right jab in. Since this is the case, if you delay your right jab by at least a frame, the chance of Clown blocking goes from 7 in 16 to 1 in 4, just like the opening right jab. It's up to you whether or not you want to do it this way. The final counter has to be frame perfect or Clown won't get dizzy. The chance of Phase 1 working is about 7.5% if you buffer the third right jab, and about 10% if you don't. At the beginning of Phase 2, Clown has a 1 in 4 chance of taunting, and a 3 in 8 chance of dodging your high super. This gives the high super just under a 50-50 chance of going through. The counter that immediately follows this high super is one of the most awkward inputs in the game, and it will take lots of practice to get down for most people. You can start celebrating after Phase 2, because Phase 3 gives you a break, and all you have to do is buffer a right jab to knock Clown down. Immediately after I was reminded that the 884 strategy exists, I started doing save state practice. I knew I wanted to do the delayed punch, but I wasn't sure how it was going to affect my consistency with the final counter. After a few minutes of practicing the counter, I came to the conclusion that I am not very good at it. That was when I made the decision to try something that I had just theorized while watching one of the videos of the 884 Clown. In Cranklinson's run, he does a quick dodge pseudo buffer after the third right jab to help time the counter. I thought this was neat, but I also felt like it wouldn't be very consistent since we delayed the previous punch, and we can't guarantee that we're always delaying the same amount of frames. Combining a variable delay with a pseudo buffer didn't sound like a good idea. So a thought occurred to me. Can I delay the right jab enough to where that quick dodge won't just be a pseudo buffer, but an actual frame-perfect buffer? Immediately, I threw some more save state practice at it, and it was possible. Next, I looked for a visual cue for the perfect delay. This was very easy, as I just waited until I saw Mac return to his idle stance after the previous punch. It was very consistent for me. Far more consistent than timing the counter manually. With this new development, a healthy amount of practice with the awkward counter in Phase 2, all adding up to about 20 minutes of practice, I began actual attempts. And after just 10 minutes, this happened.
Mad Clown! Fight! One, two, three, four. Fight!
Okay. What? It took one Phase 1. Oh my god. Seriously?
Five, six,
Holy shit.
fight!
Whoa.
Knockout!
That took less time than the old one, even though this one's like
Piece of cake.
Probably harder, I guess. Wow, dude. I'm pretty happy about that. That's a fun strategy. Yeah, as you can see, I forgot about this strat when I was doing them in order. So now I'm on like a completely different setup. I've got a completely different camera, microphone, everything. But look, I can say this for real now. 16 out of, oh shit, 16 out of 16 on PAL. Yay. I did it. I cannot believe I forgot about this strategy and just did the old one by accident. Oh my god. Super Machoman begins with mandatory frame-perfect downwards guard manip. If you're a frame late, he will block the second left jab every single time. Macho has a 1 in 4 chance of randomly blocking your first left jab, and a 7 in 16 chance of randomly blocking the second. If you want to check if him blocking the second jab was random or not, counter his following punch and keep punching to make him leave his stun. If he goes into another jab, it was a random block. If he goes into a body blow, it was not. On top of the chance of him blocking those punches, he also has a 1 in 8 chance to dance at the start of the fight, and another 1 in 8 chance to dance after your first left jab. Be careful with the counters in this fight, as the delay you have to do to hit them frame perfectly is deceptively short. And for this fight, there's no point in playing it safe, since if you aren't completely frame perfect in Phase 1, Macho will not get dizzy. Phase 2 begins with a guard manipped low super. Macho has a 3 in 8 chance of dodging this punch, and if he dances twice, 1 in 64, he will avoid being hit by it as well. If he dances once, he will still be hit by it, and it loses no time. Another thing Macho can do in Phase 2 is his exercise program, which he will begin the phase with. There are 3 different versions, but for our purposes we don't care which one it is. If he does it at all, the attempt is dead. This is a 34% chance of happening. Probably. And here is a wall of text explaining why I used the word probably. The left body counter in Phase 2 is yet another input with a deceptive and extremely awkward timing. I was relatively confident going into Macho attempts. Not only had I gotten 4 task ties that session already, but I think that I'm relatively proficient at the fight on the NTSC version. The only difference on PAL, other than the frame rate, is that you throw a couple different punches during the stuns, and you have to be frame perfect to finish Phase 1. I wasn't scared of this, since I only cared about getting the task anyways. Other times were worthless. I spent about 8 minutes practicing the counters with save states, particularly the last one in Phase 2. I also took this opportunity to lock in the timing of the guard manipped low super, since it is often an input that causes me trouble. Once I was satisfied, I started attempts, and after 11 minutes, I got my first Phase 1.
Super Machoman. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fight!
It was unfortunate, because I was sure that my guard manip had been frame perfect. If only I hadn't rushed the counter, that could have been it. I anticipated that it might be a while before I get the Phase 2 luck again, let alone frame perfect guard manip in Phase 2. I was mistaken.
Super Machoman. Fight! One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Holy shit, seriously? Oh my god, it only took 2! It took 2 fucking phase 1s!
5, 6, 7,
What?
8, 9, turn!
Dude, that took like less time than Heike, are you serious?
Pizza cake.
Oh my god! What? Oh my god, dude. Holy shit, man, what? That's actually crazy. Narcis Prince is infamous in Super Punch-Out speedrunning for being the most random character in the game. He has multiple different actions he can take at any given time, some of which aren't even in reaction to a punch. He has multiple branching patterns in his angry phase, and generally unpleasant odds that most inputs will land, let alone everything in one run. Thankfully, the execution required for this fight is not even close to being the hardest in the game, but that doesn't matter to the nerves induced by finally getting a run on task pace into Phase 2.
Big Chungus Gaming, yeah?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, turn!
You begin the fight by manipulating Narcis's guard up and attempting to land 2 right body blows. For the first punch, it is a 5 in 8 chance he doesn't block or retaliate. For the second punch, it is a 25 in 64 chance he doesn't block or retaliate. At the beginning of the fight, after the first punch, and after the second punch, Narcis has a 1 in 4 chance of walking or twirling at each opportunity. Something positive about this fight that I alluded to earlier, that being the relatively easy execution, is exemplified by the fact that you don't need to manually time this next counterpunch. Not only that, but you don't even need to perform frame-perfect guard manip to get the world record. Just like Gabby Jay, if your guard manip is frame-perfect, you use a quick duck into the counter, and if you're a frame off, you use a quick dodge. Up next is what we refer to as the angry phase. After you punch Narcis in the face, he goes into this phase. The buffer we perform here is meant to intercept a right jab Narcis attempts to throw, then counter the following right jab. Narcis has a 50-50 chance of throwing this 2 right jab pattern. You will immediately know whether or not you got it based on what happens when you throw the second right jab in the buffer. You pause when you counter him to let the super meter fill, just like Gabby, Bull, and Heike. Upon unpausing, you'll need to buffer high rapids, so I hope you've gotten good at that by now. The first high rapid will always land, but the following 3 are all random. In order for 3 to even have a chance to land, you need to have gotten one of 2 possible 2 right jab patterns. One is followed by uppercuts, and the other is followed by body blows. You need the uppercut pattern, and there is no way of knowing whether or not you got it until you get to that part of the fight. If you do get the uppercut version of the pattern, you still need to land 3 high rapids, which all have a 9 in 16 chance of landing. Probably. Here is another wall of text explaining why I said probably. Assuming you got all of the luck required, Narcis will get dizzy after the 4th rapid, and you can mentally prepare yourself to execute Phase 2. In Phase 2, Narcis has one final 1 in 4 chance of walking or twirling, instantly killing the attempt. In order to get Narcis into his angry phase in Phase 2, we use high rapids. Most people use a full dodge pseudo buffer to help time this, inputting the high rapids right as Mac returns to the center of the screen. This is a completely valid option, especially considering the alternative is a buffer consisting of not just 2, but 3 quick dodges/ducks in succession. If you're willing to put in the time to learn it, I recommend using the frame-perfect buffer, because it takes a little bit of the pressure off of getting a task pace into Phase 2 in the first place. Once you've landed the high rapids, you do a few buffered inputs into a high super, which, if it lands, knocks Narcis down and ends the fight. The odds of this final super going through are 5 in 16. Overall, assuming the odds for the high rapids are correct, the odds for the entire fight are around 1 in 931. Easily the worst of any fight in the PAL version, and it's not even close. I fully expected this fight to take the entire rest of my week, if not even longer. I was prepared though. I had gone through the grueling odds of the NTSC version of this fight, around 1 in 1600, and that fight has harder execution on top of that. I had decided, after spending just under 3 hours on IL attempts the previous day, that somewhere around 3 hours would be my daily limit. I wanted to finish this challenge, but I didn't want to burn myself out, and doing Narcis attempts all day every day was a surefire way to make that happen. So I started up day 1 of Narcis attempts, keeping track of my progress along the way. I made the decision, after some save state practice, that I wasn't going to use the frame-perfect high rapids buffer in Phase 2. I just couldn't figure it out. I could never get the quick dodge to come out after the double quick duck. So I settled for the full dodge pseudo buffer, something I've had lots of experience with on NTSC, but then again, that wasn't on an emulator or on the PAL version. In practice, I seemed to be doing well with it, so I stuck with that as my route of choice. In the first hour, I managed to get 20 339s into the angry phase, none of which made it to phase 2, which was to be expected. I ended up ending my recordings every 20 339s, and this mostly worked out perfectly so that every hour or so, I could get up and take a short break before getting back to the grind. I believe that this ritual was essential to my success in this challenge. 30 minutes into the second hour, on my 29th 339 into Angry, I got this attempt.
Narcis Prince. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5. Fight!
Damn it! Oh, shit. Oh my god. Okay. I was so happy, not only to get my first Phase 1 relatively quickly, but to also successfully time the high rapids in Phase 2 using the pseudo buffer. It was obviously unfortunate that I couldn't get the last 5 and 16, but it was hard to complain with how quickly everything else came together. The rest of Hour 2 was largely uneventful. Just 2 minutes into Hour 3, on my 41st 339, this happened.
Narcis Prince. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5. Fight!
Thwarted by RNG once again, but this time I didn't even get the chance to test my pseudo buffer's efficacy. It was sad, but the show must go on. Much like Hour 2, the rest of Hour 3 went by with nothing of note, other than getting to 60 339s by the end of Session 1. I tried again to learn the frame-perfect buffer, and again failed. I was still set on using the pseudo buffer instead. Most of Hour 4, like most hours before it, went by without anything special, but on my 79th 339 Angry, tragedy struck.
Narcis Prince. Fight! One, two, 3, 4, 5. Fight!
Of course, man.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I finished the hour with one last 339, but I had more important things on my mind. I was now dead set on never letting something like this happen again. I had gotten all the luck I needed, but didn't get the task because of an execution error. That was an unforgivable sin in the face of 1 in 931 odds. I spent a lot of time practicing the perfect buffer, and unlike the other times I'd tried, I had finally figured it out. I was now confident that I had the skill set required to get this task time. Now it was only a matter of getting all the luck one more time. Nothing special happened in all of Hour 5 other than my reaching of the 100-339 milestone. The grind continued. Hour 6 started really rough. I was in a complete 339 drought, not only caused by poor luck, but also poor execution. I was messing up Garminip constantly, and even when I got a double gutter, I was misreading whether or not I lost a frame, a problem I had hardly run into at all up to this point. The combination of these things was tilting me, and it's not good to be angry when you need to focus. Nearly 40 minutes into Hour 6, I had only gotten 2 more 339 angries, but my luck appeared to turn around 38 minutes into the hour when I got my next 339.
Narcis Prince. Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fight!
Fuck! Not only had I finally gotten another 339, but I also got another 675 Phase 1. And another 825 into the final uppercut. Not only that, but I achieved that with the buffer I had finally figured out how to execute properly. Again, it's unfortunate that the final super didn't land, but this attempt was a great relief after the torture I'd been going through for the past 40 minutes. And it didn't stop there. Just 5 minutes later, I had this attempt.
Narcis Prince. Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fight!
To get 2 Phase 1s this close to each other was absurd, and I couldn't help but recognize that. But what gives with that final uppercut? Obviously, I had already gotten it once in my 834, but is this punishment really necessary? On my 114th 339 angry, another tragedy.
Narcis Prince. Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fight!
Fuck! I was really kicking myself for this one. The what ifs, but I had to keep going. My resolve was rewarded. 339, number 117.
Narcis Prince. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5. Fight!
My god, man. But no luck again. I now had 4 825 paces into the final uppercut, and nothing to show for it. I finished the hour, that had really become an hour and a half, which had started with a horrible drought, but eventually brought 5 task paces into Phase 2, and 3 into the final uppercut. 120 339s. Tomorrow, I would continue business as usual. I started the day with a short practice session to make sure the buffer was working properly, then quickly began attempts. The first half hour went by normally. Then, on my 129th 339,
Narcis Prince. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5. Fight!
another bit of bad luck, but it was perfectly within reason. 2 walks/twirls in 8 phase 1s, exactly as expected. 6 minutes later, my 133rd 339.
Narcis Prince. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5. Fight!
Motherfucker! Oh my god, I hate this guy. I felt like the game was toying with me at this point. How much worse could it get? I finished up the hour, now at 140 339 paces into Angry. Eight minutes into the hour, 339 number 143. Two minutes later, the very next 339. I quickly racked up 4 more 339s, bringing my total to 164. Nothing came of them, but on the 165th,
Narcis Prince. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5. Fight!
yes! Let's fucking go! Yes, dude! Oh my god! Yes! Yes! Fuck yes!
7, 8,
Oh my god, dude.
pizza cake.
Oh my god. That was, let's see. 8 hours. 8 hours of gameplay. 3 days. Holy shit, man. That is so fucking sick. Yes, 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 yes. Oh. Holy shit. Yes. After 12 675s, 8 task paces into the final uppercut, just 2 execution errors in Phase 2, and just over 8 hours of attempts, I had done it. 832 Narcis Prince on PAL Super Punch-Out, the world record. I was absolutely ecstatic. Not only had I gotten something which I had dedicated 3 days to, but this meant I could still complete my goal of getting all 16 task ties in my allotted time. I still had about an hour left in my self-imposed 3-hour limit for the session, so I got to work on Heike Quarlow in the hopes that I could get a leg up before the final day. Heike Quarlow is easily the hardest fight in the game, execution-wise. This strategy has several things in common with the other difficult fights, and one thing entirely unique to it. These things combined with the relatively unforgiving RNG barrier makes it quite tough. You start the fight with a guard-manipped left jab, followed by a second left jab. Hoi has a 1 in 4 chance to dodge or block the first, and a 7 in 16 chance to dodge or block the second. After this, you have to time a very awkward intercepting right body blow when Hoi does his attack. This attack has a long wind-up, and Hoi bounces during it. Many people use these bounces as a visual cue, but it's sort of hard to describe to someone who hasn't tried it themselves. After that punch, you have to counter Hoi's next attack with a right body blow. This is another example of a delay that is deceptively short, as well as another counter which never quite looks frame perfect, just like the one in Clown's Phase 2. After this, you end the stun with a buffered left jab, and follow that up with 2 more left jabs. Both of these final left jabs have a 7 in 16 chance of being dodged or blocked. In Phase 2, you buffer a left body blow, then a right body blow, or vice versa. I don't think it matters. The only thing it changes is the timing of the following punch. You have to guard manip this high super in the middle of the fight. You do this by waiting to press up an A instead of simply buffering it. Basically, you have to pretend like the fight is starting after the animation of your previous punch ends. The way I've learned to time it is by trying to replicate what it would look like if it were to be buffered, but timing it manually. It's technically coming out a frame later than it would if you had buffered it, but I've found this specific method very helpful. If you do this correctly, Hoi's guard will be down when you throw the high super. Hoi still has a 3 in 8 chance to dodge this punch. In Phase 3, it's everyone's favorite, the guard manip low super. Hoi also has a 3 in 8 chance to dodge this one. Before I started throwing actual attempts at this fight, I knew I would need to practice extensively, Not just the awkward mid-phase guard manip in Phase 2, or the final guard manip low super, but all the weird manually timed inputs in Phase 1 as well. I spent 27 minutes practicing before I started actual runs, and I saw the fruits of my labor almost immediately. Just a few attempts in, I got my first task pace into Phase 2.
Hi, Quarlow. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight! One, two, three.
While I did lose a frame on the mid-phase guard manip, I was glad to see that all the practice I'd done for Phase 1 was paying off. A couple minutes later, I got another.
Hi, Quarlow. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5.
Same problem. The mid-phase guard manip was really giving me trouble. After nearly half an hour, I finally got another good pace.
Hi, Quarlow. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight! Fight!
This time, I completely messed up the mid-phase guard manip. It was really unfortunate. I kept playing for about 10 more minutes, but nothing really came of it. Regardless, I was happy with the progress I was able to make, and I was optimistic that I'd be able to pull everything together the next day. I started the day with some more practice in Phase 2 and 3. I had established that I was entirely capable of executing Phase 1, so I didn't need to spend time working on that anymore. 17 minutes into the session, I managed to get this run.
Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight!
Damn it, man. That is so bad. That is so dog shit. How did I fuck that up so bad?
Fight!
My first ever task pace into Phase 3. And unfortunately, I completely fell apart on guard manip and lost 2 whole frames. Disgraceful. It took me another 20 minutes to get another task Phase 1, and this one, like the first 2 from yesterday, ended with a 1 frame off Phase 2. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait nearly as long for the next, and this time, I didn't make the same mistake.
Hi, Quarlow. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight! Fight!
But I did make a different familiar mistake. He may have ducked, but even if he didn't, that guard manip was not perfect. 13 minutes later, another promising run.
Heike Kagero! Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight!
Please. That was frame perfect too, that would have been it.
Fight!
This time, I knew I had done the guard manip frame perfectly, but luck wasn't on my side. I knew that I would get this time. It was just a matter of when. The next 45 minutes proved completely fruitless. It wasn't just a lack of luck holding me back, but my execution in Phase 1 was faltering. During this time, I made sure to practice Phase 2 and 3 intermittently, just to make sure I was still ready when I finally got a perfect Phase 1 again. Finally, I had another chance to prove myself.
Heike Kagero! Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fight!
Yes! Yes! Thank God! Oh my God. Whew.
Piece of cake.
Whew. Okay. Awesome. 4 test paces into Phase 3. And, I think 10 or 11 into Phase 2. I think 10 sounds right. I can check if I really care, but yeah, that wasn't too bad. That took, probably about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, because I started last night, just did about, like, 45 minutes. It was a lot of practice, though, so most of that, I'd say half an hour of that was me just doing save state practice. So, like, yeah, 15 to 30 minutes last night, and right now I'm an hour 45 into today's, session. So, yeah, awesome. With that, I had jumped over the final major hurdle of this challenge. It was with great relief that I got this time, and I was home free from here. Just 2 left. Rick Bruiser isn't too bad. Downwards guard manip, a simple dodge and counter, 2 more downwards guard manips, and a little RNG. Absolutely nothing compared to the previous 4 fighters' strategies. Since Phase 1 is so simple, we'll go ahead and jump right into the rest of the fight. Rick has a 29 in 64 chance of dodging the high super at the beginning of Phase 2, as well as the high super at the beginning of Phase 3. The quick dodge you do after the high super in Phase 2 must be a right quick dodge, or you will be hit. There isn't much else to say about this fight other than that this version is significantly easier than the NTSC counterpart. I knew that Rick was going to be an absolute walk in the park compared to the last 2 task ties I'd achieved, and I was correct. I nearly got the time within my first 3 attempts on my first perfect Phase 1, but I unfortunately lost a frame on Gar Minute in Phase 3. I repeated this exact same mistake under a minute later. This is strange considering I never once got a 1 frame off Phase 2. All of my resets in Phase 2 were due to random dodges. A few minutes later, I got another task pace into Phase 3, but he dodged. I don't think the Gar Minute was frame perfect anyways. Seriously, what is wrong with me in Phase 3 of Rick? Thankfully, 2 minutes later, I got my 8th perfect Phase 1, my 4th task pace out of Phase 2, and the time I was looking for.
Rick Bruiser. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fight!
Yay. I almost got that on my first Phase 1, which was obviously like attempt 2 or 3.
Pizza cake.
But I was a frame off on Gar Minute in Phase 3 because I'm really bad at this game. Yay. One more. Pal Nick Bruiser is an absolute joke. The entire task strategy for this fight is buffered. You don't have to manually time a single input. Nick has a 50-50 chance of throwing a high or low punch after your first 2 left jabs. You want him to throw high. Nick will sometimes block the final left jab, which is supposed to make him dizzy. There's some complicated math that goes into understanding how this part works, but all you should care about is that it's a 3 in 8 chance that he blocks. The ability for your first high super to hit in Phase 2 is determined by what delay Nick does, as well as if he goes high or low. You want him to go high again. It's a 2 in 5 chance that he does the right delay, the long one, and of course a 50-50 on if he goes high or not. For the final high super, Nick will block it every time if he does his shortest delay, which is a 1 in 8. Assuming he doesn't do his shortest delay, he still has a 3 in 8 chance of dodging this punch. The odds for Phase 1 are 5 in 16, and the odds for Phase 2 are 7 in 64, giving this fight about a 3% chance of working out. If Rick was a walk in the park, this was a crawl in the park, both referring to it being baby easy, as well as the fact that it took longer and was really boring. While I was doing attempts, I felt like my luck was really bad, but it was actually only slightly worse than average. The only slightly striking thing is that in 49 attempts, I got 20 high punches and 29 low ones. That is quite unlucky. It would have been nice if those numbers were reversed. Of those 20 high punches, 10 of them were blocked, slightly unlucky. And, aligning very nicely with Phase 2's 10.9% chance of working, on the 10th run into Phase 2, I tied the 16th and final individual fight world record in PAL Super Punch-Out.
Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Fight!
Yay! Yes! 16 out of 16!
1, 2,
On PAL,
3,
and NTSC!
4, 5,
That's
6,
crazy.
7, 8, 9, 10. Knockout!
Oh my god.
Pizza cake!
Awesome. Obviously, with my blunder regarding Clown, I didn't exactly do all this in my original time frame of 1 week, and even ignoring that, because of the 1-day break I took after day 2, it really took 8 days. Even acknowledging that, I am so happy to have been able to get all of these times in a relatively short amount of time. I wasn't dedicating entire days to the game, at times I wasn't even playing every day, and I was able to tie the world record on all 16 fights in under 17 hours of total playtime. I can't help but be proud of accomplishing this goal that I set out for myself. Even better, I was able to use this opportunity to share my knowledge of the game with other people. If this game looked at all interesting to you, I strongly suggest that you try it out yourself. There are tons of resources out there, outside of this video, that you can use to learn how to run the game in several different ways and on multiple different versions. In the process of making this video, I've been updating the written individual level guides for PAL as well as NTSC. Both will be linked in the description. If you prefer a written document to a long-form video guide like this, the PAL IL guide is for you. I truly hope that this video has inspired you. Even if you weren't inspired to go for all the times in this game, even if you weren't inspired to play this game at all, I hope you've been inspired to set a goal for yourself and follow it through to the end. We are all capable of doing great things, it's just a matter of starting them. Lastly, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.